Mexico is one of the most influential countries in the modern world. By 2026, its population exceeded 134 million, but the distribution of Mexicans today is extremely uneven, at first glance puzzling, yet entirely logical once the context is understood. More than half of Mexico's population is concentrated within a narrow strip running across the central part of the country. This area accounts for only 18% of Mexico's total land area, yet it holds more people than the remaining 82% combined, meaning the average population density in this strip is roughly 5 times that of most of the rest of the country. Interestingly, this uneven pattern of population distribution in Mexico has remained largely stable for centuries, even millennia. As early as 1605, when Mexico conducted its first national census, the country had only 7 million people, just 1/10 of today's population. Despite that huge difference in total numbers, the settlement pattern was remarkably similar to today. About 50% of the population lived in what is now the high-density Central Strip, while the remaining 45% lived across the other 82% of the territory. Over more than 100 years, the population multiplied tenfold and technology advanced dramatically. Yet Mexican's settlement geography remained almost unchanged, a stark contrast to the United States to the north. In 1995, the US population was about 76 million. At that time, the top 10 most populous cities and states were all concentrated in the east, and the country's population center of gravity lay in eastern Indiana. Later, the US population steadily expanded westward and southward. By the 20s and 20s, only 3 of the 10 largest cities in 1995 remained on that list, and 4 of the top 10 states had dropped out, replaced by western and southern states. In 1995, Florida had fewer people than Connecticut, Texas had fewer than Missouri, and California had fewer than Mississippi. But today those 3 states rank first, second and third in population, having grown tens of times over the 20th century. Meanwhile, the US population centroid shifted nearly 400 miles southwest, settling in central Missouri. Over a century, the US population roughly quadrupled, and its distribution pattern was completely transformed. In contrast, Mexico's population grew tenfold over the same period, yet its spatial distribution ratios remained largely unchanged. Let us first examine Mexico's climatic zones. The densely populated Central Strip coincides exactly with the subtropical highland climate zone that runs across the middle of the country. Here, temperatures are moderate, making it a naturally habitable region. To the north of this strip lies hot, arid desert. Without modern irrigation, large-scale agriculture is impossible, and food production is too limited to support dense settlement. To the south lies dense tropical rainforest. Even in the industrial era of the 21st century, rainforest remains a major obstacle to human development. Mexico's border with Guatemala and Belize stretches 100 kilometers, yet there are only 8 paved roads crossing the rainforest region, meaning on average only 1 paved route per 107 kilometers of border. Moreover, rainforest soils are inherently poor. Most nutrients are stored in vegetation, leaf litter, and organic matter. When plants and animals decay, microorganisms and fungi rapidly break down organic material, so nutrients rarely accumulate in the soil. Even after slash-and-burn clearing, the soil remains infertile and requires heavy fertilizer use. At the same time, the hot, humid environment fosters pests and diseases, necessitating continuous pesticide application. Agriculture in rainforest areas is extremely costly and far less efficient than in temperate zones. Nearly 70% of Mexico's land is covered by mountains, a proportion comparable to Switzerland or Afghanistan. Mountains further magnify the disadvantages of both the northern deserts and southern rainforests. Building infrastructure in mountainous desert or rainforest terrain requires overcoming both topographic challenges and the inherent drawbacks of those climates. But the Central Highlands Mountains actually created an excellent living environment. The central mountain ranges are extremely high, lifting the region out of tropical heat and creating a cool temperate climate. Between the peaks lie vast valleys and plateaus above 1,000 feet in elevation. The high altitude wards off the mosquitoes and endemic diseases prevalent in tropical lowlands. 2. Construction materials like concrete and asphalt work properly here. Meanwhile, the Cocos and Rivera plates continuously subduct beneath the North American plate, forming the central volcanic belt. 2. Volcanic ash released by eruptions acts as natural fertilizer. After millions of years of accumulation, the valley soils are extremely fertile. This is also the birthplace of maize. 2. Ample food production supported the rise of ancient civilizations. This explains why Mexico, with a land area 3.5 times that of France, has roughly the same amount of arable land. Only 12% of its territory is suitable for farming, and most of that is concentrated in the central volcanic valleys. Before Columbus, the Valley of Mexico contained 5 large lakes and numerous rivers. Fresh water was abundant enough to support large-scale agriculture, and travel by canoe across the lakes bypassed difficult mountain routes, making transport of goods convenient. This region therefore became one of the 6 independent cradles of civilization in the world. More than 1,000 years before Columbus arrived, the ancient city of Teotihuacan rose here. At the same time as the Roman Empire, this city had a population of at least 125,000. Not only the largest city in the Americas, but also the 6th most populous city in the world at that time. Before the Spanish arrived, the Valley of Mexico was already one of the most densely populated regions on Earth. The Aztec Empire had a total population of about 6 million, comparable to the entire Spanish Empire of that era. Its capital, Tenochtitlan, had 2 million residents, larger than most European cities of the time. After the Spanish destroyed Tenochtitlan, they built Mexico City on its ruins, which remains the political and cultural heart of Mexico. The diseases and wars brought by the Spanish caused a massive decline in the indigenous population. Over the next 400 years, the population of the Valley of Mexico did not recover to its pre-Columbian level until the early 20th century. Today, the Mexico City metropolitan area has over 22 million people. Ranking as the 6th largest city in the world and the largest urban area outside Asia, Mexico City sits at about 780 feet above sea level, higher than Aspen, Colorado's famous ski resort. Among Mexico's top 10 most populous cities, 4 are above 7 feet and 3 are above 5 feet. While the mountains created habitable central valleys, they also severely hindered regional transportation. Mexico City is only 200 miles from the coast, yet it is 7,800 feet higher than sea level. The steep mountains create extreme river gradients and torrential currents. There is not a single navigable natural river in the entire country. Ancient Mexicans could not rely on cheap water transport to move goods between inland and coastal areas. Foreign trade had to depend on costly overland routes. Veracruz was one of the few natural deep water ports in pre-industrial Mexico, located relatively close to Mexico City. Yet along hundreds of miles of coastline, it was the only good harbor. For a long time, it was Mexico's most important East Coast port, but it was also chosen 3 times as the landing point for foreign invasions of Mexico City. In the 16th century by Cortez's Spanish forces, and in the 19th century by US and French armies, all of whom advanced inland from there. The mountains provided a defensive barrier for the Central Corps, but the same isolation made it difficult for the central government to control the coastal regions, and it could not develop a blue water navy. Foreign maritime powers could easily seize coastal ports and then push inland. Although Veracruz and Mexico City are only 200 miles apart in a straight line, the mountainous terrain meant that a railway was not completed until 1976. Not only was connecting the capital to the coast difficult, but the various central valleys were also separated by high mountains. Mexico guns on a patchwork of mutually isolated valleys rather than a cohesive whole. Lacking cheap water transport, building cross-mountain roads and railways required enormous upfront investment, mostly financed by foreign capital or wealthy elites. The central government found it very hard to project influence from Mexico City into other valleys, so local powers in remote areas enjoyed strong autonomy. The southern border with Guatemala and Belize is covered by rainforest, with only 8 paved roads. making comprehensive government control extremely difficult. This area became a conduit for drug and weapons smuggling from Central and South America. The northern border with the United States stretches 2,000 miles across vast deserts and mountains far from the central population core, and the Mexican central government likewise struggles to fully control it. Looking back at Mexico's population map, we see that besides the Central Highlands, the US-Mexico border region also forms a population cluster. Border cities such as Tijuana, Ciudad Juárez, Nuevo Laredo, Reynosa, and Matamoros have populations far larger than their US counterparts across the border. The underlying reason is Mexico's proximity to the world's largest consumer market, the United States. In the 1960s, the US and Mexico signed the Border Industrialization Program, allowing goods produced in Mexican border cities to enter the US duty-free. Multinational corporations built factories along the border, leveraging Mexico's cheap labor, and exported finished products via America's extensive highway network to all parts of the US over decades. Thousands of factories were established along the northern border, creating numerous jobs that attracted people from the central region to move north. This is the key reason why the population ratio shifted slightly from 55 in 1995 to about 50 today. In 1994, the North American Free Trade Agreement (NFTA) went into effect, extending duty-free export privileges to all of Mexico. However, northern border cities, being closer to the US, still enjoy lower logistics costs and maintain an advantage over inland factories. Economically, these northern cities function more as US satellite cities than as extensions of Mexico's interior. After the US shale gas revolution in 2010, natural gas pipelines were built from the US to Mexico, 1/3 of US gas exports now go to Mexico, satisfying 3/4 of Mexico's domestic gas demand. Low-cost gas reduces electricity costs for factories, which, combined with cheap labor and tariff-free access to the US, further amplifies Mexico's manufacturing advantages. Nissan now produces more cars in Mexico than in Japan itself. In 2020, Mexico became the world's 5th largest automobile exporter, rapidly catching up with 4th-ranked South Korea. In 2019, Mexico became the United States' top trading partner, and that position is likely to remain for a long time to come. Looking ahead, more factories will be built along the northern border, and more Mexicans will leave the traditional central settlement areas to seek livelihoods in the north. Over the past century, the disparity in Mexico's population distribution has narrowed slowly, and the pattern will continue to evolve over the coming decades. Ultimately, Mexico is leveraging its proximity to the United States to transform its inherent geographical disadvantages into developmental dividends. As to whether the country's population center will shift permanently northward in the future, we will have to wait and see.